Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. And we've come to a really special part of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. There's a verse in one of the Puranas that designates the Srimad-Bhagavatam or identifies the Srimad-Bhagavatam as the Purana that has this pastime, the Vrtrasura pastime. It's the only Purana that has the Vrtrasura pastime. So we're lucky to hear it. All glories to all the devotees out there in cyberspace. Welcome aboard. Let's now hear Srila Sanatana Goswami's wonderful prayer and glorification of the Srimad-Bhagavatam to teach us every day just what a deep and wonderful transcendental literature we've been allowed to hear. Haribol, Doctor, it's about time. You're like becoming regular, like a clock. Haribol, Hare Krishna. Okay, Srimad-Bhagavatam Mahima Stotram from the Sri Krishna Lila Stava by Srila Sanatana Goswami, and it goes like this. Sarva Shastra Vipiyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaya Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana, Srimad Bhagavata Prabho, Kalidvandodita Ditya, Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master, Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya, Prema Varshaksharayate, Sarvada Sarvasevyaya, Sri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Marika Bando Matsangin Madguro Mad Mahadana Mandistadaga Mad Bhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu Saduta Dayan Atini Chochata Kada Hanamunchagadachin Mam Premna Rit Katayospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So, a demon, well, he's not really a demon, he's a devotee, but he's got this body that looks like a demon, is preaching to Indra. Unusual pastime, very unusual. And he's right in the middle of his little soliloquy to him. Chapter 12, Canto 6, Chapter 12, Text 11. The three Purushas, Karanadakashayi Vishnu, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, and Chirodakashayi Vishnu, the material nature, the total material energy, the false ego, the five material elements, the material senses, the mind, the intelligence and consciousness, cannot create the material manifestation without the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. As confirmed in the Vishnu Purana, Padasya Brahmanak Shaktis Tadedam Akilam Jagat. Whatever manifestations we experience are nothing but various energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These energies cannot create anything independently. This is also confirmed by the Lord Himself in Bhagavad Gita 9.10. Maya yakshena prakriti suyate sacharacharam. This material nature is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, and it is producing all moving and unmoving living beings. Only under the direction of the Lord, the Supreme Person, can Prakriti, which is manifested in 24 elements, create different situations for the living entity. In the Vedas, the Lord says, Madiyan Mahimanam Cha Paramameti Shabditam Vitsyanuvihitam Me Samprashnar Vivritam Hridi. Since everything is a manifestation of my energy, I am known as Parabrahman. Therefore, everyone should hear from me about my glorious activities. The Lord also says in the Bhagavad Gita 10.2, Ahang Adir Hidevanam. I am the origin of all the demigods. Therefore, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the origin of everything, and no one is independent of Him. Srila Madhvacharya also says, Anisha Jiva Rupena. The living entity is Anisha, never the controller, but is always controlled. Therefore, when a living entity becomes proud of being an independent Ishvara, or God, that is his foolishness. Such foolishness is described in the following verse. Text 12. A foolish, senseless person cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although always dependent, he falsely thinks himself the Supreme. If one thinks, according to one's previous fruitive actions, one's material body is created by the father and mother, and the same body is annihilated by another agent, as another animal is devoured by a tiger, this is not proper understanding. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself creates and devours the living beings through other living beings. Purport. According to the conclusion of the philosophy known as karma mimamsa, one's karma, or previous fruitive activity, is the cause of everything, and therefore there is no need to work. Those who arrive at this conclusion are foolish. When a father creates a child, he does not do so independently. He is induced to do so by the Supreme Lord. As the Lord Himself says in Bhagavad Gita 15:15, Sarvasya chaham riddhi sanavishdo matak smritir jnanam apohanam cha. I am in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. Unless one receives dictation from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who sits within everyone's heart, one cannot be induced to create anything. Therefore, the father and mother are not the creators of the living entity, according to the living entity's karma. According to the living entity's karma, fruitive activities, he is put into the semen of the father, who injects the mother into the living entity, into the womb of the mother. Then, according to the body of the mother and father, yata yoni yata bijam, the living entity accepts a body and takes birth to suffer or enjoy. Therefore, the Supreme Lord is the original cause of one's birth. Similarly, the Supreme Lord is the cause of one's being killed. No one is independent. Everyone is independent. No one is independent. Everyone is dependent. The true conclusion is that the only independent person is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 13. Just as a person not inclined to die must nonetheless give up his longevity, opulence, fame, and everything else at the time of death, so at the appointed time of victory, one can gain all these when the Supreme Lord awards them by His mercy. Purport. It is not good to be falsely puffed up, saying that by one's own effort one has become opulent, learned, beautiful, and so on. All such good fortune is achieved through the mercy of the Lord. From another point of view, no one wants to die, and no one wants to be poor or ugly. Therefore, why does the living entity, against his will, receive such unwanted troubles? It is due to the mercy or chastisement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead that one gains or loses everything material. No one is independent. Everyone is dependent on the mercy or chastisement of the Supreme Lord. There is a common saying in Bengal that the Lord has 10 hands. This means that He has control everywhere, in the 8 directions and up and down. If He wants to take everything away from us with His 10 hands, we cannot protect anything with our 2 hands. Similarly, if He wants to bestow benedictions upon us with His 10 hands, we cannot factually receive them all with our 2 hands. In other words, the benedictions exceed our ambitions. The conclusion is that even though we do not wish to be separated from our possessions, sometimes the Lord forcibly takes them from us, and sometimes He showers such benedictions upon us that we are unable to receive them all. Therefore, either in opulence or in distress, we are not independent. Everything is dependent on the sweet will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 14. Since everything is dependent on the supreme will of the Personality of Godhead, one should be equipoised in fame and defamation, victory and defeat, life and death. In their effects, represented as happiness and distress, one should maintain oneself in equilibrium without anxiety. Text 15. One who knows that the 3 qualities, goodness, passion, and ignorance, are not qualities of the soul, but qualities of material nature, and who knows that this pure soul is simply an observer of the actions and reactions of these qualities, should be understood to be a liberated person. He is not bound by these qualities. Purport. As the Lord explains in Bhagavad Gita 18:54, Brahmabhuta prasanatma nashochati nakankshati samak sarveshu bhuteshu madbhaktim labate param. One who is transcendentally situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed to every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. When one attains self-realization, the Brahmabhuta stage, one knows that whatever happens during his life is due to the contamination of the modes of material nature. The living being, the pure soul, has nothing to do with these modes. In the midst of the hurricane of the material world, everything changes very quickly. But if one remains silent and simply observes the actions and reactions of the hurricane, he is understood to be liberated. The real qualification of the liberated soul is that he remains Krishna conscious, undisturbed by the actions and reactions of the material energy. Such a liberated person is always jubilant. He never laments or aspires for anything. Since everything is supplied by the Supreme Lord, the living entity, being fully dependent on Him, should not protest or accept anything in terms of his personal sense gratification. Rather, he should receive everything as the mercy of the Lord and remain steady in all circumstances. Text 16. Oh, my enemy, just look at me. I have already been defeated, for my weapon and arm have been cut to pieces. You have already overwhelmed me, but nonetheless, with the desire to kill you, I am trying my best to fight. I am not at all morose. Even under all even under such adverse conditions. Therefore, you should give up your moroseness and continue fighting. Classic. Purport. Vrtrasura was so great and powerful that in effect he was acting as the spiritual master of Indra. Although Vrtrasura was on the verge of defeat, he was not at all affected. He knew that he was going to be defeated by Indra, and he voluntarily accepted that. But since he was supposed to be Indra's enemy, he tried his best to kill Indra. Thus he performed his duty. One should perform his duty under all circumstances, even though one may know what the result will be. Text 17. My enemy, consider this battle a gambling match in which our lives are the stakes, the arrows are the dice, and the animals acting as carriers are the game board. No one can understand who will be defeated and who will be victorious. It all depends on providence. Text 18. Shukadev Goswami said, hearing the straightforward, instructive words of Vrtrasura, King Indra praised him and again took the thunderbolt in his hand. Without bewilderment or duplicity, he then smiled and spoke to Vrtrasura as follows. Purport. King Indra, the greatest of the demigods, was astonished to hear the instructions of Vrtrasura, who was supposed to be a demon. He was struck with wonder that a demon could speak so intelligently. Then he remembered great devotees like Prahlad Maharaj and Bali Maharaj, who had been born in the families of demons, and thus he came to his senses. Even so-called demons sometimes have exalted devotion for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore Indra smiled reassuringly at Vrtrasura. Text 19. Indra said, O great demon, I see by your discrimination and endurance in devotional service, despite your dangerous position, that you are a perfect devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supersoul and friend of everyone. Purport. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 6.22, Yam labdva chaparam labam manyate nadikam tataha yasmin stito nidukena gurunapi vichalyate. Established in Krishna consciousness, one never departs from the truth, and upon gaining this, he thinks there is no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of the greatest difficulty. An unalloyed devotee is never disturbed by any kind of trying circumstance. Indra was surprised to see that Vrtrasura, undisturbed, was fixed in devotional service to the Lord, for such a mentality is impossible for a demon. However, by the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, anyone can become an exalted devotee. Striyo Vaishyas tata Shudras Tibiyanti Param Gatim. An unalloyed devotee is sure to return home, back to Godhead. Text 20. You have surmounted the illusory energy of Lord Vishnu, and because of this liberation, you have given up the demoniac mentality and have attained the position of an exalted devotee. Purport. Lord Vishnu is the Mahapurusha. Therefore, one who becomes a Vaishnava attains the position of a Mahapurusha. This position was attained by Maharaj Parikshit. It is said in the Padma Purana that the distinction between a demigod and a demon is that a demigod is a devotee of Lord Vishnu, whereas a demon is just the opposite. Vishnu Bhakta Smrito Daiva Asuras Tad Viparya Yaha. Vrtrasura was considered a demon, but actually he was more than qualified as a devotee, or Maha Parushaya. If one somehow becomes the Supreme Lord's devotee, whatever his position, he can be brought to the position of a perfect person. This is possible if an unalloyed devotee delivers him in this way and thus tries to serve the Lord. Therefore, Shukadeva Goswami says in Srimad-Bhagavatam 2:4-18, Kirata Hunandra Pulinda Pulkasha Abhira Shumba Yavanat Kasadayaha Yen Ye Chapapa Yadapashrayashraya Sudyanti Tasmai Prabhabhishnave Namaha. Kiratas, Hunas, Andras, Pulindas, Pulkashas, Abhiras, Shumbas, Yavanas, and members of the Kasa races, and even others addicted to sinful acts, can be purified by taking shelter of the devotees of the Lord, for He is the supreme power. I beg to offer my respectful obeisances unto Him. Anyone can be purified if he takes shelter of a pure devotee and molds his character according to the pure devotee's direction. Then, even if one is a Kirata, Andra, Pulinda, or whatever, he can be purified and elevated to the position of a Maha Purusha. Text 21. O Vrtrasura, demons are generally conducted by the mode of passion. Therefore, what a great wonder it is that although you are a demon, you have adopted the mentality of a devotee and have fixed your mind on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, who is always situated in pure goodness. Purport. King Indra wondered how Vrtrasura could have been elevated to the position of an exalted devotee. As for Prahlad Maharaj, he was initiated by Narada Muni, and therefore it was possible for him to become a great devotee, although he was born in a family of demons. For Vrtrasura, however, Indra could not detect such causes. Therefore he was struck with wonder that Vrtrasura was such an exalted devotee that he could fix his mind without deviation upon the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, Vasudeva. Text 22. A person fixed in the devotional service of the Lord, Hari, the Lord of the highest auspiciousness, swims in the ocean of nectar. For him, what is the use of the water in small ditches? Purport. Vrtrasura has formerly prayed, Srimad-Bhagavatam 6:11-25, Nanaka Prishtam Nachapara Meshtyam Nasarva Bhavamam Narasadi Patyam. I do not want the facilities for happiness on Brahmaloka, Swargaloka, or even Dhruvaloka, not to speak of this earth or the lower planets. I simply want to return home back to Godhead. This is the determination of a pure devotee. A pure devotee is never attracted to any exalted position within this material world. He simply wants to associate with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, like the inhabitants of Vrindavan, Srimati Radharani, the gopis, Krishna's father and mother, Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda, Krishna's friends and Krishna's servants. He wants to associate with Krishna's atmosphere of Vrindavan's beauty. These are the highest ambitions of a devotee of Krishna. Devotees of Lord Vishnu may aspire for a position in Vaikuntha Loka, but a devotee of Krishna never aspires even for the facilities of Vaikuntha. He wants to return to Goloka Vrindavan and associate with Lord Krishna in his eternal pastimes. Any material happiness is like water in a ditch, whereas the spiritual happiness eternally enjoyed in the spiritual world is like an ocean of nectar in which a devotee wants to swim. Text 23. Sri Shukadeva Goswami said, Vrtrasura and King Indra spoke about devotional service, even on the battlefield. And then, as a matter of duty, they again began fighting. My dear king, both of them were great fighters and were equally powerful. Text 24. O Maharaj Parikshit, Vrtrasura, who was completely able to subdue his enemy, took his iron club, whirled it around, aimed it at Indra, and then threw it at him with his left hand. Text 25. With his thunderbolt named Shataparvan, Indra simultaneously cut to pieces Vrtrasura's club and his remaining hand. Text 26. Vrtrasura, bleeding profusely, his two arms cut off at their roots, looked very beautiful, like a flying mountain whose wings had been cut to pieces by Indra. Purport. It appears from the statement of this verse that sometimes there are flying mountains and that their wings are cut by the thunderbolt of Indra. Vrtrasura's huge body resembled such a mountain. 27 to 29. Vrtrasura was very powerful in physical strength and influence. He placed his lower jaw on the ground and his upper jaw in the sky. His mouth became very deep, like the sky itself, and his tongue resembled a large serpent. With his fearful, death-like teeth, he seemed to be trying to devour the entire universe. Thus, assuming a gigantic body, the great demon Vrtrasura shook even the mountains and began crushing the surface of the earth with his legs, as if he were the Himalayas walking about. He came before Indra and swallowed him, and Airavata, his carrier, just as a big python might swallow an elephant. Text 30. When the demigods, along with Brahma, other Prajapatis, and other great saintly persons, saw that Indra had been swallowed by the demon, they became very morose. Alas, they lamented, what a calamity! What a calamity! 31. The protective armor of Narayana, which Indra possessed, was identical with Narayana himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Protected by that armor and by his own mystic power, King Indra, although swallowed by Vrtrasura, did not die within the demon's belly. Text 32. With his thunderbolt, King Indra, who was also extremely powerful, pierced through Vrtrasura's abdomen and came out. Wow, you're just in time, Sarva, for the climax of this fight. Vrtrasura just swallowed Indra. And all the demigods, and they said, oh my, what's going on? Oh, alas, what's this? But because he had the Narayana Kavacha on, the armor, that was non-different from Vishnu, then he didn't die, even though he was in the belly of Vrtrasura. And his own mystic power and his thunderbolt, he cut through the demon's belly and came out. With his thunderbolt, King Indra, who was also extremely powerful, pierced through Vrtrasura's abdomen and came out. Indra, the killer of the demon Bala, then immediately cut off Vrtrasura's head, which was as high as the peak of a mountain. 33. Although the thunderbolt revolved around Vrtrasura's neck with great speed, separating his head from his body took 1 complete year, 360 days, the time in which the sun, moon, and other luminaries complete a northern and southern journey. Then, at the suitable time for Vrtrasura to be killed, his head fell to the ground. Text 34. Vrtrasura ki jai. When Vrtrasura was killed, the Gandharvas and Siddhas in the heavenly planets beat kettle drums in jubilation. With Vedic hymns, they celebrated the prowess of Indra, the killer of Vrtrasura, praising Indra and showering flowers upon him with great pleasure. Text 35. O King Parikshit, subduer of enemies, the living spark then came forth from Vrtrasura's body and returned home, back to Godhead. While all the demigods looked on, he entered the transcendental world to become an associate of Lord Sankarshan. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur explains that Indra, not Vrtrasura, was actually killed. He says that when Vrtrasura swallowed King Indra and his carrier elephant, he thought, now I have killed Indra, and therefore there is no more need of fighting. Now let me return home, back to Godhead. Thus he stopped all his bodily activities and became situated in trance. Taking advantage of the silence of Vrtrasura's body, Indra pierced the demon's abdomen, and because of Vrtrasura's trance, Indra was able to come out. Now Vrtrasura was in yoga samadhi, and therefore, although King Indra wanted to cut his throat, the demon's neck was so stiff that Indra's thunderbolt took 360 days to cut it to pieces. Actually, it was the body left by Vrtrasura that was cut to pieces by Indra. Vrtrasura himself was not killed. In his original consciousness, Vrtrasura returned home back to Godhead to become an associate of Lord Sankarshan. Here the word alokam means the transcendental world, Vaikuntha Loka, where Sankarshan eternally resides. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 6th canto, 12th chapter of Srimad-Bhagavatam, entitled Vrtrasura's Glorious Death. Hare Krishna. Chapter 13. King Indra afflicted by sinful reaction. He's always doing things, this Indra, he's always trying to, getting reactions and spreading them around. Jeez. Okay. This chapter describes Indra's fear at having killed a Brahmana, Vrtrasura. And it also describes how he fled and was saved by the grace of Lord Vishnu. When all the demigods requested Indra to kill Vrtrasura, he refused because Vrtrasura was a Brahmana. The demigods, however, encouraged Indra not to fear killing him because Indra was protected by the Narayana Kavacha, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, Lord Narayana. Even by a glimpse of the chanting of Narayana's name, one becomes free from all these sinful reactions of killing a woman, a cow, or a Brahmana. The demigods advised Indra to perform an Ashwamedha sacrifice, by which Narayana would be pleased, for the performer of such a sacrifice is not implicated in sinful reactions, even if he kills the entire universe. Following this instruction from the demigods, King Indra fought Vrtrasura. But when Vrtrasura was killed, everyone was satisfied but King Indra, who knew Vrtrasura's position. This is the nature of a great personality. Even if a great personality acquires some opulence, he is always ashamed and regretful if he acquires it illegally. Indra could understand that he was certainly entangled by sinful reactions for killing a Brahmana. Indeed, he could see sinful reaction personified, following him. And thus he fled here and there in fear, thinking of how to rid himself of his sins. He went to Manasarovara, and there, under the protection of the goddess of fortune, he meditated for 1,000 years. During this time, Nahusha, reigned over the heavenly planets as the representative of Indra. Unfortunately, however, he was attracted by the beauty of Indra's wife, Shachi Devi, and because of his sinful desire, he had to accept the body of a serpent in his next life. Indra later performed a great sacrifice with the help of exalted brahmanas and saints. In this way, he was released from the reactions of the sinful killing of a brahmana. Text 1. Srila Shukadeva Goswami said, O King Parikshit, who are so charitably disposed, when Vrtrasura was killed, all the presiding deities and everyone else in the 3 planetary systems was immediately pleased and free from trouble. Everyone, that is, except Indra. Text 2. Thereafter, the demigods, the great saintly persons, the inhabitants of Pitriloka and Bhutaloka, the demons, the followers of the demigods, and also Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and the demigods subordinate to Indra, all returned to their respective homes. While departing, however, no one spoke to Indra. Purport. In this connection, Srila Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur comments, Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and the other demigods returned to their respective abodes, but Indra did not, for he was disturbed at having killed Vrtrasura, who was actually a brahmana. After killing Vrtrasura, Indra went to the Manasa Sarovara lake to become free from sinful reactions. When he left the lake, he performed an Ashwamedha Yajna and then returned to his own abode. Text 3. Maharaj Parikshit inquired from Shukadeva Goswami, O great sage, what was the reason for Indra's unhappiness? I wish to hear about this. When he killed Vrtrasura, all the demigods were extremely happy. Why then was Indra himself unhappy? Purport. This, of course, is a very intelligent question. When a demon is killed, certainly all the demigods are happy. In this case, however, when all the demigods were happy because of Vrtrasura's having been killed, Indra was unhappy. Why? It may be suggested that Indra was unhappy because he knew that he had killed the great devotee in Brahmana. Vrtrasura outwardly appeared to be a demon, but inwardly he was a great devotee, and therefore a great Brahmana. Herein it is clearly indicated that a person who is not at all demoniac, such as Prahlad Maharaj and Bali Maharaj, may outwardly be a demon or be born in a family of demons. Therefore, in terms of real culture, one should not be considered a demigod or demon simply according to birth. In his dealings while fighting with Indra, Vrtrasura proved himself a great devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Furthermore, as soon as he finished fighting with Indra and was apparently killed, Vrtrasura was transferred to Vaikuntha Loka to become an associate of Sankarshan. Indra knew this, and therefore he was morose at having killed such a demon, who was actually a Vaishnava or Brahmana. A Vaishnava is already a Brahmana, although a Brahmana may not be a Vaishnava. The Padma Purana says, Shat karma nipuno vipro mantra tantra bishardadaha avaishnavo gurur nasyad Vaishnava chapacho guru. One may be a Brahmana in terms of his culture and family, and may be expert in Vedic knowledge, mantra tantra visharada. But if he is not a Vaishnava, he cannot be a guru. This means that an expert Brahmana may not be a Vaishnava, but a Vaishnava is already a Brahmana. A millionaire may very easily possess hundreds and thousands of dollars, but a person with hundreds and thousands of dollars is not necessarily a millionaire. Vrtrasura was a perfect Vaishnava, and therefore he was also a brahmana. Text 4. Sri Shukadeva Goswami answered, when all the great sages and demigods were disturbed by the extraordinary power of Vrtrasura, they had assembled to ask Indra to kill him. Indra, however, being afraid of killing a brahmana, declined their request. Text 5. King Indra replied, when I killed Vishwarupa, I received extensive sinful reactions, but I was favored by the women, land, trees, and water, and therefore I was able to divide the sin among them. But now if I kill Vrtrasura, another brahmana, how shall I free myself from the sinful reactions? Text 6. Sri Shukadeva Goswami said, hearing this, the great sages replied to King Indra, O King of Heaven, all good fortune unto you. Do not fear. We shall perform an Ashwamedha sacrifice to release you from any sin you may accrue by killing the brahmana. Text 7. The rishis continued, O King Indra, by performing an Ashwamedha sacrifice and thereby pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the Supersoul, Lord Narayana, the Supreme Controller, one can be relieved even of the sinful reaction for killing the entire world, not to speak of killing a demon like Vrtrasura. There's a verse that describes that one should not compare the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra without offense to 10,000 Ashwamedha yagas. And only a few people in the whole history of the universe have performed 100. That's the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. And that's what we have. Text 8 and 9. One who has killed a brahmana, one who has killed a cow, or one who has killed his father, mother, or spiritual master, can be immediately freed from all sinful reactions simply by chanting the holy name of Lord Narayana. Other sinful persons, such as dog-eaters and chandalas, who are less than shudras, can also be freed in this way. But you are a devotee, and we shall help you by performing the great horse sacrifice. If you please Lord Narayana in that way, why should you be afraid? You will be freed even if you kill the entire universe, including the brahmanas, not to speak of killing a disturbing demon like Vrtrasura. Purport. It is said in the Brihad Vishnu Purana, Namno hiyavati shakti papa nirharane harehe tavat kartum nishaknoti patakam pataki naraha. Also in the Prema Vivarta by Jagannananda Pandit, it is said, Eka Krishna nami papira yata papachaya bahu janmi sae papi karite nalaya. This means that by once chanting the holy name of the Lord, one can be freed from the reactions of more sins that he can even imagine performing. The holy name is so spiritually potent that simply by chanting the holy name, one can be freed from the reactions to all sinful activities. What then is to be said of those who chant the holy name regularly or worship the deity regularly? For such purified devotees, freedom from sinful reaction is certainly assured. This does not mean, however, that one should intentionally commit sinful acts and think himself free from the reactions because he is chanting the holy name. Such a mentality is a most abominable offense at the lotus feet of the holy name. Namno balad yasahi papa buddhihi. The Lord's holy name certainly has the potency to neutralize all sinful activities, but if one repeatedly and intentionally commits sins while chanting the holy name, he is most condemned. These verses name the performers of various sinful deeds. In the Manu Samhita, the following names are given: a son begotten by a brahmana and born from the womb of a Shudra mother is called a parashaba, or nishada, a hunter accustomed to stealing. A son begotten by a nishada in the womb of a Shudra woman is called Pukasa. A child begotten by a Kshatriya in the womb of the daughter of a Shudra is called an Ugra. A child begotten by a Shudra in the womb of the daughter of a Kshatriya is called a Chata. A child begotten by a Kshatriya in the womb of a lower class woman is called a Shwada, or dog eater. All such offspring are considered extremely sinful, but the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is so strong that all of them can be purified simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. The Hare Krishna movement offers everyone a chance to be purified, regardless of birth or family. As confirmed in Srimad-Bhagavatam 2.4.18, Kirata Hunanda Pulinda Pulkasha Abhira Shumba Yavana Kasadaya Yen Ye Chapapa Yadapash Prashashaya Shudyanti Tasmai Prabhavishnave Namaha. Kiratas, Hunas, Andras, Pulindas, Pulkashas, Abhiras, Shumbas, Yavanas, members of the Kasa races, and even others addicted to sinful acts can be purified by taking shelter of devotees of the Lord, for He is the supreme power. I beg to offer my respectful obeisances unto Him. Even such sinful persons can certainly all be purified if they chant the holy name of the Lord under the direction of a pure devotee. Herein the sages encourage King Indra to kill Vrtrasura, even at the risk of Brahmahatya, the killing of a Brahmana, and they guarantee to release him from sinful reactions by performing an Ashwamedha Yajna. Such purposefully devised atonement, however, cannot relieve the performer of sinful acts. This will be seen from the following verse. Text 10. Sri Shukadev Goswami said, encouraged by the words of the sages, Indra killed Vrtrasura. And when he was killed, the sinful reaction for killing a Brahmana, Brahmahatya, certainly took shelter of Indra. Purport. After killing Vrtrasura, Indra could not surpass the Brahmahatya, the sinful reactions for killing a Brahmana. Formerly, he had killed one Brahmana, Vishvarupa, out of circumstantial anger. But this time, following the advice of the sages, he killed another Brahmana purposely. Therefore, the sinful reaction was greater than before. Indra could not be relieved from the reaction simply by performing sacrifices for atonement. He had to undergo a severe series of sinful reactions. And when he was freed by such suffering, the Brahmanas allowed him to perform the horse sacrifice. The planned execution of sinful deeds on the strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord or undergoing prayaschita, atonement, cannot give relief to anyone, even to Indra or Nahusha. Nahusha was officiating for Indra, while Indra, absent from heaven, was going here and there to gain release from his sinful reactions. Text 11. Following the advice of the demigods, Indra killed Vrtrasura, and he suffered because of this sinful killing. Although the other demigods were happy, he could not derive happiness from the killing of Vrtrasura. Indra's other good qualities, such as tolerance and opulence, could not help him in his grief. Purport. One cannot be happy by committing sinful acts, even if one is endowed with material opulence. Indra found this to be true. People began to blaspheme him, saying, "This person has killed the Brahmana for the sake of enjoying heavenly material happiness." Therefore, in spite of being king of heaven and enjoying material opulence, Indra was always unhappy because of the accusations of the populace. Text 12 and 13. Indra saw a personified sinful reaction chasing him, appearing like a Chandala woman, a woman of the lowest class. She seemed very old, and all the limbs of her body trembled. Because she was afflicted with tuberculosis, her body and garments were covered with blood, breathing an unbearable fishy odor that polluted the entire street. She called to Indra, "Wait, wait." Purport. When a person is afflicted with tuberculosis, he often vomits blood, which makes his garments bloody. Text 14. O king, Indra first fled to the sky, but there he also saw the woman of personified sin chasing him. This witch followed him wherever he went. At last, he very quickly went to the northeast and entered the Manasa lake. 15. Always thinking of how he could be relieved from the sinful reaction for killing a Brahmana, King Indra, invisible to everyone, lived in the lake for 1,000 years in the subtle fibers of the stem of a lotus. The fire god used to bring him his share of all yajnas. But because the fire god was afraid to enter the water, Indra was practically starving. Text 16. So much for becoming heavenly King Indra and enjoying life. As long as King Indra lived in the water, wrapped in the stem of the lotus, Nahusha was equipped with the ability to rule the heavenly kingdom due to his knowledge, austerity, and mystic power. Nahusha, however, blinded and maddened by power and opulence, made undesirable proposals to Indra's wife with the desire to enjoy her. Thus Nahusha was cursed by a Brahmana and later became a snake. Text 17. Don't you want to go to heaven? Heaven, translation. Indra's sins were diminished by the influence of Rudra, the demigod of all directions, because Indra was protected by the goddess of fortune, Lord Vishnu's wife, who resides in the lotus clusters of Manasarovar lake. Indra's sins could not affect him. Indra was ultimately relieved of all the reactions of his sinful deeds by strictly worshipping Lord Vishnu. Then he was called back to the heavenly planets by the Brahmanas and reinstated in his position. Text 18. O king, when Lord Indra reached the heavenly planets, the saintly Brahmanas approached him and properly initiated him into a horse sacrifice, Ashwamedha Yajna, meant to please the Supreme Lord. 19 and 20. The horse sacrifice performed by the saintly Brahmanas relieved Indra of the reactions to all his sins because he worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead in that sacrifice. O king, although he had committed a gravely sinful act, it was nullified at once by that sacrifice, just as fog is vanquished by the brilliant sunshine. 21. King Indra was favored by Marichi and the other great sages. They performed the sacrifice just according to the rules and regulations, worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supersoul, the original person. Thus Indra regained his exalted position and was again honored by everyone. Text 22 and 23. In this very great narrative, there is glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana. There are statements about the exaltedness of devotional service. There are descriptions of devotees like Indra and Vrtrasura. And there are statements about King Indra's release from sinful life and about his victory in fighting the demons. By understanding this incident, one is relieved of all sinful reactions. By understanding this incident, one is relieved of all sinful reactions. Therefore the learned are always advised to read this narration. Haribol. If one does so, one will become expert in the activities of the senses, his opulence will increase, and his reputation will become widespread. One will also be relieved of all sinful reactions. He will conquer all his enemies, and the duration of his life will increase. Because this narration is auspicious in every respect, learned scholars regularly hear and repeat it on every festival day. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 6th canto, 13th chapter of Srimad-Bhagavatam, entitled King Indra Afflicted by Sinful Reaction. Haribol! Haribol! And congratulations to all the devotees in the room and out there in cyberspace who are so lucky to hear this narration of the killing of Vrtrasura and Lord Indra's dealing with the sinful reactions and all the other things that happened along with the pastime. It's very wonderful, and we're very lucky. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Okay. Time for our open mic session time. Yes, Bhakti Doug is first today.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Bhakti Doug.
I just had a question about what we just heard about Indra receiving those sinful reactions. I thought, doesn't Krishna say something in the Gita along the lines of when one is engaged in his prescribed duty, he's not subject to sinful reactions?
Well, unless he does something sinful.
Okay.
I mean, we should do our duty under all circumstances. We shouldn't do sinful activities.
But it seems like here Indra was being kind of forced to fight against Vrtrasura, who was a Brahmana.
Well, it was complicated. It's not so simple as that. He just killed a Brahmana, and he had already had some reactions. And this is a very special one, you know. And we're going to find out, actually, now we're going to find out who Vrtrasura was. And that'll answer a lot of questions about why it was so sinful.
Okay.
And why he had to take those reactions. It's interesting that you had this question, because that was going to be Maharaj Parikshit's next question.
Okay.
Why doing his duty did he have to take sinful reactions into Indra, so he's so exalted? But I mean, again and again in the heavenly planets we see that the effects of extreme opulence. Look what happened in Nahusha. He's a very exalted person, and he's qualified to sit in Indra's throne and take charge while he's gone, and he got attracted to his wife. It's the nature of the material world. Nobody's exempt. If you do something very seriously wrong, you can't be exempt. You have to suffer the reactions.
Okay. Thanks, Maharaj.
I mean, even in the beginning of the universe, we've read when Lord Brahma was creating the universe, even in the very beginning, before he heard the Bhagavatam and became a perfect devotee, he had to go through all kinds of weird things. He touched the foam and it became a big monster and started to chase. He created these demons, and they started to come and try to eat him and have sex with him. And I mean, it wasn't like it was just twirling a lotus flower and saying, let there be this and let there be that. And no, he had to go through a lot. He still does. Every morning he has to do all kinds of things. So, I mean, that's the point. Abharmabha maraloke punarabhitarojana mamopeta to konteya punarjanmanabidyate. From the highest planet down to the lowest, all are places of repeated birth and death. We're suffering. You cannot escape it. No one. Only escape is to go back to Godhead. And therefore, that should be our sole objective. To please the Lord, and not want to go back to Godhead for our, just like a kid going to the beach or something, but to actually please Krishna. There's this wonderful section of the Vrtrasura when Gopakumar goes to Vaikuntha and meets Vishnu. There's a speech in which Vishnu describes to him how he felt about him. He says, "Why you've been staying away from me for so long? I'm in so much anxiety. Why are you doing this to me?" And then he wasn't even, meant to be there. He was meant to go to Goloka Vrindavan. And because Vishnu is an expansion of Krishna, when he saw Gopakumar, an actual cowherd boy, he started to remember Goloka, and he turned into Krishna, and all his associates turned into, the associates of Krishna in Vrindavan for at least a few minutes, so Gopakumar could feel comfortable. So that's how much Krishna wants us to be with him, wherever we belong originally, from our original position. And that's how fallen we are, that we don't appreciate that, and we're not eager to go back to him. Prabhupada said to us many times, Krishna's more eager to have us back to him than we are to go back to him. He said he's taking us back, kicking and screaming the whole way, like like a mother taking a little kid from the beach to go home to take rest. No, I don't want to. Yes, Prana, our new master asker, following in the footsteps of his Gurudev.
I really like these instructions Vrtrasura gives to Indra.
Mm-hmm.
These last ones on the battlefield. That one text where he says how one may think or say that, by one's karma, one takes birth by a certain mother or father, or by one's karma, one gets killed by this person, just as a tiger devours a cow or something. Mm-hmm. And then the verse says, but actually this person is wrong. His thinking's wrong. It's actually the Supreme Lord who is creating and devouring living entities through other living entities. And I like that because it promotes, well, it's true for one thing, but also it promotes Krishna consciousness, seeing Krishna behind all the external coverings in our interactions. I mean, I think a lot about book distribution in this regard, that the rejections, the acceptances, it's not me, it's not them, it's Krishna's kind of orchestrating everything, and
It shows us how the only way that we can go back to him is to take full shelter of him, because we can't do it ourselves. That's the tip of the arrow there. And because of our nature and because of our fallen condition, we can't conceive of someone who's as kind as Krishna. Therefore we're thinking it's too good to be true. And therefore we don't, fully believe it, or we don't fully, reciprocate. Even though we're being given all this transcendental nectar and this wonderful knowledge.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
I
don't know if I can answer it, but go ahead. Somebody will.
There was a section in there about committing the 7th offense against the holy name, committing sinful activities on the strength of chanting.
Yeah.
So, how does one know if they're doing that? In the case of, because on one hand, when we do something that's wrong or sinful. I mean, it's our choice, but it could be due because of influence of the modes of nature, and our conditioning. So we're influenced, but on the other hand, it's our choice to do it. And so, I guess my question is, how does one know if they're committing sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name, and how to get what? I mean, that's said to be one of the gravest offenses, right next to Vaishnava Parad. And so, what to do about that?
Well, in a general sense, we know that we're still committing offenses if we don't taste the holy name, if tears don't come from our eyes when we chant, if our body doesn't tremble, if our voice doesn't choke up, and the symptoms of one who is actually chanting in love will come. Of course, they don't always come. Even devotees who have other kinds of duties to do, they might not, manifest those symptoms, but how do you know? I guess the answer is you do, because it's like, how do you know what a cake tastes like? You don't. The cake looks very nice, but you can't know what it tastes like unless you eat it. And another person sitting over there, he can't know what it tastes like just by watching you taste it. So we know by tasting. We know by tasting the nectar. We know we're going forward when we don't feel attracted to material activities and attached to material things, even though we do our duty, but we're not attached to the things. To the extent that we're feeling detached, that's the first symptom of one who is freed from sinful reactions. And there has to be some internal awareness, in order to go forward in devotional life. We know because we hear it in the Shastra. We know because we can't know these things unless we hear submissively from the Shastra, from the liberated souls. That's the ultimate answer. There's no other way to know that. Of course, that is confirmed by our own feeling, by our own personal experience. Confirmation has to come from within the heart, and Krishna will give us that confirmation if we're fortunate. Otherwise, there's a saying, "'Tis folly to be wise where ignorance is bliss." And then there's another statement that says there's two kinds of persons who are blissful. A pig who is completely ignorant, and a Paramahansa saint who never thinks a sinful thought. And everyone else in between is in anxiety and mixed and experiencing all kinds of things. So we can only know about this by hearing from a liberated source, from a source of knowledge. I said this the other day. It's related to that whole thing about free will, is there, isn't there, and how it all works. Unless you hear from, unless we hear from Prabhupada, this is why I've dedicated my life to just reading Prabhupada's book out loud to the devotees, because he's sure. You never hear any shred of doubt in his words. There's no maybe, there's no if, there's no and, there's no buts, there's no I think. Doesn't exist, not once, in thousands and thousands and thousands of pages of nectar. He never uses those terms, because he's sure, completely sure, because he's realizing it. So by hearing from a realized soul, that's how we know these things. And then it has to be confirmed by our own personal experience. It can't be, it's not dogma. It's not that just because I know it, therefore I'm liberated, or just because I feel, or just because I want something. There has to be practical. We have to show Krishna, in other words. That's the point, isn't it? That purport is saying that it's Krishna that's doing everything, ultimately. But we have to show Krishna, our sincerity, so that he'll want to, bring us back to him, because that's what he wants. It's like Prabhupada always uses the example of the loving father, and has a son who wants something that's either bad for him or dangerous or not good for somebody else, and if they insist and love is real, then he'll give it to them. So we're all getting all this facility by Krishna because we wanted to be here and do this. And that's why it says we should be giving the credit to him, whatever happens to us. But we want to take credit for something good we do and want to blame him for something bad happens, So as long as we're in that mentality, of course we won't be able to perceive these things. We'll always see friends and enemies. Prahlad Maharaj, he wasn't interested, even though he was given to demoniac teachers who were teaching him. He wasn't interested at all. Because why? Because he heard from Narada Muni within the womb. And the teachers couldn't figure it out. Hiranyakashipu were blaspheming the teachers. Why have you taught him these things? This is my enemy, Vishnu. He said, we didn't teach him anything, He said, how did this happen? We don't know. He just is like this, It's like, and then finally he asked Prahlad himself, where did you get all this? I got it from the same place you got your things, from God, from the source of everything. Oh, Hiranyakashipu got really upset. Anyway, I'm going around and around in a full circle here. But that's the answer to the question. To the degree that we're convinced. And sometimes we have to experience those things to become convinced, Indra, he had to go through all those heavy reactions to be convinced. But when we have opulence, when we have comfort, when we have power, when we have all those things at our disposal to the degree that Indra has, then it's very easy to forget. That's time. Causes us to forget. Therefore, we have to keep hearing every day like this. That's my realization. Why I've decided to do this. Because if I don't, I'll forget. If we do this every day, just like the benediction we got at the end of this, if you just hear this, what to speak of hearing it every day, if we hear regularly the Bhagavatam, we won't forget. This is real culture. This is what the real Vedic culture they would do, isn't it? In the villages in India. In the evening they would work and do whatever their duties were, and at the end they would all come together and they would hear the Bhagavatam, hear the Ramayana, hear the Mahabharata, and hear about Krishna, and be happy, and then go to bed and dream about them and get up and like that, prepare themselves for going back to the spiritual world. How much the world needs this. How much the world needs this. Do we have something there from the cyberspace?
Vijaya Lakshmi says, Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Vijaya Lakshmi.
Please accept my humble obeisances.
Jaya, glories to Prabhupada.
Is it true that when we suffer physically, our sinful reactions are getting nullified?
I wouldn't go to say, I wouldn't go as far as say it's nullified, but they're getting used up. When something good happens to us, we're using up our pious reactions, and when we're suffering, then we're using up our sinful reactions. Therefore, when either one are happening, we should feel satisfied. We should feel good about it, because the reactions for us being in the material world are being used up. And like Prabhupada said, even devotees, you unplug, from sinful life, stop sinning, especially those 4 regulated principles. If you stop doing them, then it's like unplugging the fan. But if you unplug the fan still goes around for a while. And how long that takes depends on the strength of the things that you've done, and so many things, circumstantial. So therefore, even though there may be some, sensations or experiencing of suffering and pain and all these different things, we should keep our right attitude, our equipoised attitude. And again, this comes back to regularly doing devotional service. We'll be able to keep our equipoised nature if we continuously perform devotional service. So, yes, if while we're suffering pain, we're being relieved of the reactions or the built-up sinful reactions. Yes. Next.
He said thank you.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Yes, Bhakta Marcus. Yes, we do.
Well, comment, somewhat of a reflection. I just liked how this whole story with the demon Vrtrasura was markedly similar to when Arjuna was stricken with grief on the battlefield, and Krishna was, talking him through it. And Arjuna threw down his bow, and he didn't want to fight, and Indra was stricken by the blow to his ego, because his his fighting prowess was defeated. He threw down his lightning rod. And I just thought it was really profound, and how it, categorized demigods as, not too dissimilar from ourselves here in the middle planets, and how susceptible demigods are. I mean, for me personally, because I've had difficulty wrapping my mind around how demigods are in fact so susceptible to the modes of nature as we are. I just enjoyed it very much. So.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
May we all enjoy it and continue to enjoy it more and more. Okay, we'll wrap it up here. Thank you very much, everyone out in cyberspace and everyone here. Yes, one more.
Question, so it says
Wait a second. Get the mic.
It says in previous chapter 12, last verse, purport, say Vrtrasura not killed because he.
Wait, say that again. I didn't hear that.
Vrtrasura, he's not killed. He's in a samadhi, and then they cut.
Vrtrasura is not clear?
Not killed.
Oh, not killed. I'm sorry. I thought he said not clear. Okay.
He's in a samadhi and then become sitting peacefully. And Indra came out from his abdomen, and then he cut his throat and everything. So he says he's not killed. He's just in the samadhi, and he go back to Godhead.
Yes. Pretty wonderful.
But that's what I feel like.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. That's what we have to do. And if we continue to think of Krishna, practice every day, every day, every day, and then when it comes time for us to leave our body, we'll automatically think of Krishna. Just out of habit, if not out of ecstatic love, even just out of habit. And we'll go back to Godhead, like Ajamil did. Okay, that's it. I got to go get to bed early and get up early and do recording tomorrow morning. Thank you so much. All glories to Vrtrasura. All glories to Indra. All glories to the Srimad-Bhagavatam. All glories to Maharaj Parikshit. All glories to Shukadev Goswami. All glories to all the devotees of the Lord. Gaur Premanandi. Hari, see you tomorrow night, same place, same time, same station. Hare Krishna.